I'm Lisa Smith, and this is Focus on Business. In today's hiring market, a generous benefits package is essential for attracting and retaining top talent. According to Glassdoor's Employment Confidence Survey, about 60% of people report that benefits and perks are a major factor in considering whether to accept a job offer. The survey also found that 80% of employees would choose additional benefits over a pay raise. We're talking about competitive employee benefits today on the show. So we know that competitive employee benefits are critical, and it's a lot of work for a small company, even if you have 500 employees. You're going to need vendors. You're going to want to have those vendors be vetted, competent. What can SBAM do to help us with that?
The one thing that we know here at SBAM is that small business owners, they're the CEO, they're the CFO, the VP of sales, the VP of human resources. They're wearing a lot of hats every day. And because they're wearing all those hats, they can't possibly be experts in every area, and that's where SBAM comes in. We have vetted products in a number of categories that go through a process of review. They're vetted by small business owners, they're created for small business owners, and they're meant to fill in the gaps that every small business has in both their employee benefits offerings, but also in other areas of their business. The categories that we talk about are employee benefits and health insurance, HR and compliance, information technology, and now the newest product we offer is cybersecurity. We have legal hotlines, we have an HR hotline, operations, the list goes on and on. What we want to make sure that our members and the small business community understand is that we have these products, they're all there, they're available for them. They come either at a price discount because of our volume, or it's simply a product or service that a small business owner can't get on their own. They go through the process, the member benefits committee reviews them and makes sure, and the board reviews them. So what the thought I'd like to leave everybody with is call us first. Our 800 number, 888 actually, 362-5461, or visit the SBAM website and view the products. And if we don't have something you're looking for, with 27 of us that are thinking about small business every day, if we don't have a product, chances are we know someone that does.
Thank you. Here with me today is Scott Lyon and Eric Brogan. Thank you for being here today. We have an interesting show. Talking about employee benefits, Google is famous for over-the-top employee benefits. Those might include lunches by professional chefs. I mean, we're talking about Bon Appetit. Chair massages, yoga classes, haircuts at your desk. Twitter employees might enjoy 3 catered meals a day, on-site acupuncture, improv classes. But I think what we're seeing is that employee benefits have changed, the way that we perceive them, what they are, the category. What should you do if you can't afford those Google-sized benefits?
You're right, Lisa. They have changed, and they will continue to change every year, every decade. However you measure time, things are different now than they were in 1970, and they'll be different again in 2050 from where they're at today. Where we're at today, though, is in a time of sort of historic low unemployment in Michigan. So what I think the small business owners need to understand is that they are competing in a shallow pool for the talent they need. And they need to be competitive in their industry, in their location, to attract the employees they need to move their business forward. I don't think there's any one right answer as to what the absolute best employee benefit package looks like. There are multiple answers to that. And maybe what the small business owner ought to consider is having a conversation with their employees about what that looks like from the employee's perspective. It depends on, we use personas in our marketing. There are personas in employee benefits as well. If you have a lot of young millennials, it's going to look different than if your employment base is, 50-year-old white males. And it should look different. The other things you can look to are your industry group, what's common in the industry that you are competing for talent in. You can look to organizations like the Society of Human Resources Management, or SHRM, or the American Society of Employers. They all do studies on what's out there, what's trending, what is your industry offering today.
Interesting. When I was researching the topic, it also showed that on the flip side, current employees are interested in getting more education. So rather than necessarily coming with all the debt, they want to get where they are and then further their hireability on the job. So if the employer can potentially help you in that regard as well.
Yeah, there's a SHRM study that I saw, I think actually LinkedIn might have done it, reported in SHRM, but the answers to what's most important, what matters most to the employees, were really different than what I expected, what we might have seen 10 years ago. And it started with things like the nature of the work really matters. The opportunity to learn and to grow in your job matters. The people that you work with matter. If you're coming to work every day and you're just miserable because of the folks you work with, you're not going to stay around long. The culture, the work environment matters. What is happening with opportunities to bond with your employees, after hours, lunches, learning experience, things like that. Making goals, hitting the targets was reported as a really important thing, above things like getting a raise or getting a promotion, which in my era, I would say those are the things that were most attractive to my peers when I started, but not so much anymore.
From a benefits perspective on that subject, what we're seeing is a huge increase in the voluntary benefits that are available. So these are things that are cost neutral to the employer because they are not paying. When I say voluntary benefits, that means employee paid. And it's a huge benefit if an employer would just offer things like voluntary dental or voluntary vision plans, even pet insurance, some crazy things like that people would think outside the box.
So you're talking about it's offered through the company, but it's all paid by the employee?
Correct. And that way, what the benefit to the employee is they're getting benefits they could not get on their own, but they're getting it at group discounts, using pre-tax dollars, so it's tax favorable benefits that way. And we'll have employers who would think, like we had a company a month ago that said we don't think we're going to get very good participation from a voluntary dental plan. Well, out of 150 employees, 89 enrolled in it at no cost to the employer, just because they were able to put it out on their platform and offer it as a potential benefit.
That's fascinating. I've never even heard of that. And I think it is interesting because what you are talking about here, when I was hired in my first job, that was stuff that I would have considered culture. Pizza Fridays, ping pong tables. But if you hear the younger generation of workers talk, these are some things that I still think that they're culture, but they think that they're benefits. So, benefits most valued by job seekers. There was a study done, I think by Factol is what the study was called. Health, dental, vision was still at the top. But things that still made the list were things like team bonding events, an on-site gym, weekly free employee outings, take your employees bowling and suddenly they have a benefit, free coffee, free snacks, company-wide retreats, gym memberships, daycare, tuition assistance, as you said, paid maternity leave. These are more traditional, but we can't really have a serious conversation about competitive employee benefits without talking about health, dental, vision, the things that are still standard, because the Affordable Care Act has changed everything. Is that correct?
For sure. And I think the one thing the employer needs to realize, there's no silver bullet there's no easy answer to the whole health insurance piece. It is expensive. But what we found back in 2014, when the Affordable Care Act was rolling out to small companies, the thought was, and even Blue Cross was predicting it, that about 20% of the small group market was going to go away. In other words, employers were going to pull the plug on their health insurance and just send people off to the exchange to find their own individual policies. Well, that didn't happen at all, not even close. And so what employers have found is it's still critical to offer a good health insurance plan that people can cost share, can buy into, and they cannot replace that on the exchange. Right now, if you're going to go out and find your own individual plan, you're going to find out you're going to have watered down benefits, less comprehensive. You're going to pay a lot more out of pocket through the premium. The costs are about 20% higher on the individual market, and it's not tax deductible. So even today, it's a huge value if an employer will at least offer a group plan. Let me give you an example. Last week I was over in Fenton, a company that's been around for about 10 years, great company. They've never offered health insurance to their employees. The employer agreed to set up a small group plan, do a very modest employer contribution, and a number of the employees were able to come off their individual plans, come on their employer-sponsored plans with better benefits, lower cost, and tax-deductible premiums. And it was a real win for both the employer and the employee with just a very modest employer contribution.
You're right, Eric. I remember those predictions coming out of the insurance industry, and I would add one thing to that some companies did abandon their traditional group health insurance plan at about that time, nowhere near what the industry predicted they would. What we're seeing now are companies that did that having to put a group health plan back in to their employee benefit offerings in order to be able to compete. Especially in Michigan, what our members, what the small business community need to remember is that they're competing for talent against Ford and GM and Chrysler, the state of Michigan, the big Fortune 500 companies that are here, that a lot of people are used to the old union benefits. And if you don't have the basics covered of a health insurance plan, life and disability, retirement plan, things like that, you may never even get off the ground in that search for the talent that you need.
And I want to say, so as a small business owner, we make it sound like, yep, you have to do this. It's simple. Go take a look at it. But you know that there's a lot to navigate here. There's a lot of barriers. We have always wanted to offer good benefit packages to our employees. But the barriers that we've run into, for example, have been if we had too many people that were on their spouse's plan and we were below a certain number, we got dropped by the insurance company. That actually happened. We wanted to offer benefits. The insurance company said, you don't have enough people, you're on your own. And so now we have a problem. So then we get enough people who need it again. Now we have an employee who's covered by their spouse's union insurance program. If we offer a lesser plan, that employee's spouse's rules say that they must take our plan, even though it's a worse plan. That's the union rules. So now we have a key employee that we might not be able to keep if we offer everybody else benefits. So I think that there's a tremendous amount to navigate. Then can I just say, Scott, also, I think that there's a wonderful thing going on right now with associations being able to offer health plans. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can talk a little bit about that, but right now everything is on hold. What you're referring to is an association health plan.
Right.
And there was an executive order by President Trump back in late 2017, followed by Department of Labor regulations, and then followed by a lawsuit from 10 or 11 attorney generals. And they found a judge in the District of Columbia that agreed with them, that put association health plans, or the ability for an organization like SBAM to group purchase health insurance on behalf of their employee members. That is been ruled as outside of the boundaries of ERISA, which is an employee benefit law, technical laws that govern employee benefits, health, retirement plans, things like that. But the long story short is everything is on hold while this is appealed. It's already been, the notice of appeal has been filed by the Department of Justice on behalf of the Department of Labor. The The amicus briefs are due in early June, and we hope that there's a decision by the courts by the end of September. But it was doing exactly what you mentioned, Lisa. It was allowing sole proprietors to come back into the group market, something that was not allowed with the Affordable Care Act. It allowed about 30% or so of the small group market to obtain some pretty substantial savings on their employee benefit plans. We started an AHP called Transcend, and in the months that followed January, we kicked off in January, 430 some companies and about 2,400 employees are enrolled. And they're enrolled because it was a better plan, a better price, better options, better coverage, benefits, deductibles, things like that than what they could find elsewhere, or they wouldn't have enrolled. But because of this court case, everything's on hold as we wait for the appellate court to make a decision.
Yeah, and I want to just say, it's not like you were bypassing anybody. Agents were still involved in this. So this was a very responsible solution for business owners, something that I was very interested in. You know, the barriers to health care benefits are numerous. For one thing, and I know not everybody shares my view on this, you pay your premiums through your employer. If you have a major medical event and lose your job, you don't have benefits anymore. So the fact that it's just even through an employer, but then when you need it the very most, you lose your job, your benefits are gone. That to me is a really big cliff for people who have benefits. But that's just, it's a whole other story. I know it's very polarizing. I know it's very political. I know there's a lot of lobbying.
I think the takeaway there is that the rules are changing.
Yeah.
And just because you thought things would be true 2 years ago doesn't make them true today. And you need to continue to work with a trusted advisor who can walk through those different scenarios and make sure you're getting the most bang for the buck for the benefit dollars that you spend as an employer.
I completely agree. The agent that we worked with, also through the SBM plan, told us about the cafeteria plan so that people could have that payroll deduction and have it be a non-taxable or pre-tax payment, which is 20 to 30% less cost. That's a significant, when you're paying $1,000 or $2,000 a year out of pocket, that's a significant amount of money. That literally allows you to afford a dental program and a vision program for your family.
In today's world, there's literally no excuse for a small employer not offering a Section 125, at least a premium-only plan that'll make that employee contribution a pre-tax event. They're cheap, they're easy to do, there's absolutely no excuse. If a small employer is sharing their premium costs with their employees, which almost all of them are today, there's no excuse not to have a Section 125 plan in place.
Good advice, I agree. And a darn good plan. It's as important as marketing in a lot of ways, if you ask me. So we opened the show talking about Google and Twitter and the crazy things that technology has done to benefits and culture, that whole industry. But in the benefits side, technology has also changed benefits in a lot of ways. Eric, you were talking about that with me a little bit earlier. Sure. What do you mean by that?
Well, technology has been slow to come to the employee benefits world, but it's here now. And one of the main pieces of technology that we're seeing that was not available 5 years ago, that's there today, is the ability to do online visits with your physician. Right? So we haven't gotten much traction yet, but every carrier that we represent allows online visits. They provide for it, which means basically going on your phone, your laptop, your iPad, and meeting with a doctor face-to-face over the screen. It is the most convenient, low-cost way to access the healthcare system. It is available today, and it's really going to become an education piece because it's gotten very low traction to this point, but we think within 3 to 5 years it's going to be an enormously popular benefit for folks, especially the younger ones who are more tech dependent, tech comfortable. But we think everyone's going to start gravitating toward these online visits with their physicians.
So what's coming next? Facebook message visits and chatbot visits? Just kidding. No, but I mean, I even like the Ask a Nurse line. I think that that's been really helpful, and not have to go to even just a ReadyCare for that. So we got about 1 minute left.
You rattled off a list of benefits a little earlier in the show, Lisa. Some of them are expensive, some of them don't cost anything. I would like to just suggest that our members, the small business community, make sure that they've got the basics covered, the things that don't cost anything to do. My wife works for a large Michigan organization, and every month she has to file an expense report. It's an absolute nightmare. It takes her 3 to 4 hours to do something like that. So let's make sure we've got the basics covered. Make it easy to update an address, make it easy to file an expense report, to request time off, things like that. Those are things that don't cost anything to do, except they cost a lot to do if it takes an employee 3 or 4 hours to do something simple like that.
Well, I really appreciate you both being here. It's great advice, good information, and certainly top of mind right now for everybody in the business community. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Lisa.
Jeff, what role does IT play in competitive employee benefits?
Well, it's a great question because people think about employee benefits as health insurance or some of the other things, but they don't think about technology. And especially among younger employees, they like the fact that they're going to have a new computer. They don't want to show up on the first day of work and have this 3-year-old computer with a square monitor from 1989. They want to use modern technology. Modern mobile devices like an iPhone. An iPhone's better than an Android device. It's a status sort of thing. So employers need to think about that when they're trying to attract employees. The other thing that they need to think about is, again, younger employees like to work from home. They like the flexibility of having remote access. And so we need to put the technologies in place and plan for how do we allow people to work from home? How do we control people that are working from home? It's the modern workplace. It's a challenge.
Technology is one of the most expensive things that we spend money on, and most certainly often. It's always a question for me, how often should I be turning over equipment?
Well, okay, so on a regular computer, a desktop computer, a laptop computer, that type of thing, about 3 years. If you can get more life out of it, 4 years. Though the good thing is, when we're talking about these employee benefits, is you can rent or lease this equipment, so it now becomes a monthly expense, and you don't have a huge chunk up front. Just like you're paying for your health insurance every month, you are paying for the technology. You don't own it, you're leasing it, you're providing it to your employees, they're producing work, and everybody's happy.
So are these 3-year leases on computers?
Could be a 3-year lease, could be a 4-year lease, could be a 2-year lease. If you like to upgrade your technology more often, you get some choices.
Right, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Focus on Tech, brought to you by Providence, making technology easier.
Thanks for being here. We're talking about competitive employee benefits, and banks play a fairly significant role in some of these benefits today.
They do. Local banks can offer for small businesses, for their employees, direct deposit. Local banks generally tend to have the lowest fees and the best interest rates on checking and savings accounts for their employees. Local banks are also a great place for small business customers, employees to go get a home loan. And also, if someone's looking to retire, most local banks have a wealth management person who can help someone with rolling over an IRA and how to set up distributions and all those types of things. So a local bank is a great place to go for small businesses to look for a little bit of help with for their employees.
What about healthcare?
Healthcare is a big issue right now. We've seen many customers or many small businesses have moved to high deductible healthcare accounts or healthcare programs. The sister product to that is called a health savings account, which is just a savings account that's held at a bank. and money goes in there tax-free, and it is earned, you can earn interest on it, which is also not taxed, and those can be used to meet your deductible and pay for various medical services. And it is not a use it or lose it account. You can just save money in there and have it grow over time too if you're lucky enough not to have too many medical expenses. So a local bank is also a great place to have those set up for all of your employees.
So if you want to set that up, talk to your banker about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. They will. They'll generally be able to meet with you as a business owner or maybe your HR person and set up like a direct deposit or an automatic withdrawal every month for people who want to have that for all their customers.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Focus on Banking, brought to you by Michigan Bankers Association.
So with some of these new lifestyle employee benefits, are there legal implications to go along with them?
Sure. It's great to have something like maybe a ping pong table or workout equipment at the office, but a couple of things. First, you need to know and make very clear to your employees whether that is optional time or whether they're going to be doing that on the clock. You don't want to run into a circumstance where they think they're at work and being paid, and you're thinking that it's just there for recreation after hours. So just, make your policies clear. So review your policy manuals, review your handbooks, make sure that all of your policies are clear so that everybody just knows what they're doing and when they're getting paid and when they're not. So, and then of course, be careful about making things on site too interactive. You don't want to end up with employee injuries and workers' comp.
Skateboards in the parking lot
Right.
might not be
Sure.
a great idea. Ping pong elbow
Right, exactly. Yeah, ping pong elbow is rampant. Yeah.
in the tip room.
Right, exactly.
Employee benefits, they're all not created equal.
Right, so of course not. So if you're looking to diversify the type of benefit you're giving for your employees, you're going to probably customize employee benefits for some employees, and they're going to be different. For example, a younger employee may want tuition reimbursement assistance, right? And another employee may want a different kind of medical benefit or more life insurance. You just need to make sure that the cash values of your benefits are the same so that you don't have inequity in what you're doing. Then you get into employment disputes, and you don't want to create problems. You want to make things easier. So just make sure that the cash values of what you're giving out to your employees are roughly the same for their level of employment.
Understood.
Right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Focus on Law, brought to you by Polachella and Associates, PLLC.
When it comes to employee benefits, be true to your company and culture. Listen to your employees and seek out resources. Thanks for watching.